Chapter 7, Leveraging Failures and Frustrations. Although we don't necessarily like to admit it, failures and frustrations happen all the time. They might be as simple as getting stuck in traffic, dealing with lousy customer service, or being unhappy with your current job. Think about where your thoughts go in such moments. Don't they go deeper than just that morning coffee commute, unhelpful customer representative, or boring office task? In those situations, it's common to question your whole existence, as in, I waste an entire week of my life every year sitting in my car. I hate being treated like a number, or this isn't where I thought I'd be at this stage of my life. Very accurate. You may be thinking to yourself as you read this, William is doing great as he's making loads of money in the entertainment business. Of course he's happy. He's living the dream. Well, those are not the exact words I hear from people whom I meet. That's the gist. And while I am certainly a glasses half full kind of guy, I know about failures and frustrations, both large and small. Not all of my failures have been as public as my American Idol audition. For instance, I've gone through 2 divorces. In the spirit of rapport building, I'll share some details. I need a drink because this is about to get juicy. I met my first wife on a Chinese dating website. I was 29 or 30 years old at the time and naive enough to believe in love at first sight. I would love to know how old William Hung is. I feel like he's 4 years younger than me, so I think he's 38. That would be my guess. William Hung, how old are you? William Hung is born January 13th, 1983. He is 4 years younger than me. So he's 38, turned 38 this year. According to Wikipedia, his spouse's name is First Wife. That is classic. First Wife. I eventually went to China and met her in person. I told myself right then that I was in love. I married her a week later. My friends would say I needed to know someone for 2 or 3 years before getting married. However, I've been chatting with her online and via video conferences, and I thought it would be hard to see her again in person because I would need to fly back and forth between the US and China. I felt pressured to make a quick decision, and the first time I hung out with her in person, I felt great having her by my side, so I decided to trust my gut instinct. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Within 10 months, we divorced. I never dreamt that our marriage would fail, so I didn't have her sign a prenup agreement. That turned out to be a rather expensive failure, but a valuable lesson. I realized how long the time gap between our marriage in China and the time we finally got to see each other in person in the US was really bad. We definitely tried to stay in touch using instant messaging and video conferencing, but by the time she arrived in the US, the lust for a romantic relationship was already gone. Wife number 2 was, like me, living in Los Angeles area. So this time I made sure to get to know my would-be bride better before popping the question. 6 months to be precise. We would hang out for lunch and dinner, go to the parks, go to movies, go whale watching, and do other fun things together. Then after about 3 months, my parents pressured me to get married. They really wanted grandchildren. Having learned from my first marriage, I did not make the decision to marry my second wife based on that. I decided to marry her because I saw she was a kind, loving person who genuinely cared about me. The marriage was full of ups and downs, and it lasted 2.5 years. Both women were young and attractive. It would be fair to say that I was preoccupied with outside appearances. I failed to explore their life vision and values. That second divorce is still a painful subject. My parents were mean to my wife. They were overprotective of me, and they always said that I was right and she was wrong on issues like eating out, finances, and household duties. I was hoping somehow that we could live together as one family because, as Chinese, we value harmony. But my mom would even say to me at times that she was a witch manipulating my mind so I would not listen to my parents. My wife cried and said that she was moving out with or without me. I finally sided with her, and we moved out together after a year and a half of living with my parents. But the damage to our relationship was already done. I could not repair the relationship even after we moved. After my second divorce, I spiraled into a depression. Apart from work, which I would have quit if I had the luxury to do so, I felt too fatigued to do anything except play video games, play poker, and watch sports. If unplugging from reality had been an option, I'd have signed up. In early 2017, a friend of mine cheered me up and brought me out of my month-long stupor. She was one of my friends from Toastmasters, and she said that I had been a role model for her. She said that I inspired her to continuously improve her public speaking, and that it seemed very uncharacteristic of me to be in a slump and unmotivated to do anything about it. Then we talked about my very first album, Inspiration, and how I had short motivational messages between the songs. They're great. She said she was one of my biggest fans and still listened to my albums. I would like to challenge her. I bought your book, dude, and I bought that album, and I actually had the poster on my wall in my cubicle at work that came with the album, so maybe I'm on par with her. Somehow this gave me an insight. Maybe I can inspire other people by becoming an inspirational speaker. I knew I was not the only guy who had gone through a divorce. A lot of relationships fail, and thus the subject is quite universal. So rather than wallow in my own misery, I took that failure and shared, in a humorous fashion, the wisdom that I had gleaned from it. I figured it could help others who had dealt with, or were currently dealing with, the pain from their own failed attempts at building a long-lasting relationship. Don't let your particular failures and frustrations stand in the way of sharing your story. Others have been there, or are there, or will be there, and they need to hear your message of inspiration. I feel like we got time to read a second chapter. Let me see how long this next chapter is. Next chapter is 5 pages or so. Now, we'll save that for another night. We'll save that one. Next chapter is chapter 8, Champion by Choice, Key 2, Context.